late afternoon sun on my first day back, full day back after chicken sitting for friends down in Eastbourne. No fatalities, I'm pleased to report. In fact, much against the run of play, Jennifer surprisingly laid an egg for me for my breakfast one day, which is definitely out of character at this time of year, but obviously contented chickens lay golden eggs. I have many reasons to be grateful and thankful today, but I was extremely glum for some reason yesterday morning, and isn't it just like a child demanding sweets from mummy at the checkout? I don't want to be in this state of mind. I want to be more cheerful, happy, ecstatic, distracted, you name it, anything but this. Oh dear. You would have thought we would have grown out of it as we get older. I'm going to call it a mind tantrum. I want, or I don't want. It's very juvenile behaviour, really. I've just watched a Marcel Davis video over my poached egg and beans on toast with a cup of tea and a glass of orange juice. And his topic, I do like Marcel Davis's Christian non-duality channel. He's an ex-Methodist minister, but he is, because he's trained in a biblical discourse and a family man, I find him very clear, very down to earth on what can be in the world of non-duality and Advaita. Very airy-fairy. But our Marshall Davis, I find very easy to understand and down to earth. So I shall leave a link to his channel in the description. His theme was, unless you become as little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of God. That's a bit over the top. It makes me think that, I thought this as I watched it, that it is just in Jesus's style to use hyperbole. Is that how you pronounce it? Hyperbole. Hyperbole. Hyperbole, to get his point across. I don't really think that he means that grown-ups like you and I need to suck our thumb or a dummy and cry out for wine gums at the checkout like children do. I don't think that's what he's getting at. And indeed, that's not what Marcel Davis was getting at. To be honest, I did find his argument a little puzzling, so I'll share it with you briefly. It seems a sort of slight on the man. I've not mentioned him before on these videos, and the first time I'm going to mention him, I'm going to take him to task over his line of thinking. But here goes. I'm sure, Marshall, you'll forgive me. He says that just like Nicodemus, when he asks Jesus, how does he enter the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God? I have to look that one up. Jesus says, obey the commandments. And Nicodemus sort of goes, tick, yes, done that. But then it's like, what else? Well, he says, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, you must be born again. Now, this is a very favourite expression of the evangelicals. When I was actually pre-Christian, but I'd met Christians on holiday in Nevin in North Wales, and I fancied them. I fancied Janet Peel in particular, but Sid was a great mate who, and I went to Nevin several times on house parties, Christian house parties, when I was 17. And they were from Fallowfield in Manchester. I'm just going to show you this view. This is very close to the tiny house. I know there's a lot of sun, but it's just gorgeous. Yes, the kids from Fallowfield. Anyway, this time I went to Fallowfield because there was a march, a Festival of Light march, a big evangelical thing with banners and drums and singing, and they were handing out tracts. Isn't it funny? I think the only time you would use, or I would use, the word tract is in proselytizing the gospel, handing out tracts. It's a thing. And I just played copycat. I wasn't a Christian then, but I took a bundle of leaflets and walked along the streets. There were lots of people out on their doorsteps, actually. So I was thrusting this "Are you saved?" leaflet into their hands and saying, "Are you saved? Are you saved?" I didn't say, "Unless you become as a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of God." I didn't say that. I wouldn't have known that verse. But I meant to mean it, but I didn't know what it meant because I hadn't entered the kingdom of God, not as it was preached to me when I was 17. So when I got back to my house in Wallasey, actually, on the other side of the River Mersey to Liverpool, where I lived with my mum and dad and younger brother and sister at the time, I just I broke down in tears of sort of remorse in a way, knowing that I'd been a fraud, a fake. I invented fakery. I invented fake news all those years ago, and I knew I hadn't committed my life to the Lord then. So I did. I literally knelt down on my bedroom floor, said a prayer, and bingo! It's true. It sounds as though I'm making light of it, but it was a very real conversion experience, and I felt like I could fly. And the next day I was full of it. I must have been a real pain in the neck and other parts of the anatomy to my family. Oh, there's nothing more off-putting than a born-again Christian, is there? Anyway, I grew out of it. I still happy to affirm it as a valid experience. In fact, I've included a whole section in my book, Mistaken Identity, on that spiritual birth experience and other experiences. Unless you become as a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. What was Jesus referring to? And what does my mate, my good mate, I've forgotten his name, Marshall Davis, that's it. My good mate Marshall Davis. What he was making out that this rebirth and Nicodemus says to Jesus, "Don't be daft. How can I enter again my mother's womb and be born again?" And Jesus didn't laugh at him or kick dirt in his face. He seemed to stand his ground, and Marshall Davis makes the point that what Jesus was really saying to Nicodemus is that you must have the non-discriminating mind of a child, one of acceptance, a sort of a natural acceptance of the kingdom of God instead of intellectualizing it. So, and he takes that right back to in the pre-infant stage, before the age of 2. He makes the point that, according to psychologists, the consciousness of a child makes no distinctions of self and others. So before a child is educated or conditioned, shall we say, by parents, yes, siblings, yes, teachers and society, to think of themselves as separate little Johnny or Jane, the uncluttered or unconditioned human mind and spirit just experiences everything neat, raw, 100%, makes no discrimination. Well, I can't go along with that. That doesn't quite make sense to me, because I don't know about you, I can't remember that far back to remember what it was like to have a non-discriminatory consciousness. Can you? It's definitely a learning and a socialization time, isn't it, for sure? And it also makes out that there's something tainted or wrong or mistaken about having a more developed or discriminatory mind, making distinctions between one thing and another. And I don't think that's realistic. If we've been given minds that discriminate and meant to use them, I would suggest it's the non-discriminatory mind. And I'm going to be controversial here and say the sort of mind that the evangelical Christian has no problems voting for Trump in the Idaho caucus tomorrow, or tonight actually, because, well, it's just plain to see that's non-discriminating. It's discriminating in the wrong direction, in my humble opinion. What do I know about American politics? You see, I'm conditioned as well. I'm not like a child, therefore I shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Or will I? I don't think there is some other place. I didn't know I was going to touch on this topic, by the way. I don't think there is such an other place. There's a series of great videos on YouTube, and it's called The Good Place, I think. And there are, I think, 3 or 4 series, 6 or 8 programs, and each one of them features a philosopher, including one of them, my favourite philosopher, Kierkegaard. But I don't think there is a good place, a heaven somewhere after this life. I think the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of God that Jesus is referring to, is a different way of experiencing this life. I mean, look at it. I don't know about you, no amount of My Little Ponies or Princess Leia's or anything else, I don't know why those came to mind, but that would not trump, excuse the expression, that would not improve on this absolutely amazing, miraculous, not only this world, but the cosmos in which we happen to be located. Are there other cosmoses, cosmos? I don't know. It doesn't trouble me at all if there was, actually. No need to be possessive about this one. There might be alien life. That would be quite reasonable, I think. Might be different laws of physics on different multiverses. That's all contained within the bigger mind of God. I think that's what I would say. And sort of being born again doesn't really mean, as far as I have experienced it anyway, being, shall we say, ejected in an ejector seat out of this physical world into some ethereal, non-material world. No, I don't think so. I think it comes down to that lovely word, metanoia. I like that word a lot. Metanoia, which I think if my Latin, it might be Greek, if my Latin serves me at all well from the fifth form O levels, GCSE O levels, metanoia means beyond the mind. So I think, if I'm not barking up the wrong tree, and my friends here, the trees, will support me in this, beyond the mind. Have you got a mind, trees? Not in a form that you and I would recognise. The panpsychists would argue strongly that trees have a lower type of mind, as indeed would this dry stone wall behind me. In other words, the panpsychists consider consciousness to be a component built into the material world at the tiniest level. How that combines, it's called the combination problem. You heard it here first, perhaps. The combination problem is, even if there was a very, very primitive mind somehow circling or embodied or in the particles of atoms or even quantum particles, how do they gang together to form more advanced forms of consciousness? That's the combination problem. Nobody's solved that one yet, not even you, Mr. Philip Goff, in your book Why, the Purpose of the Universe. No, can't go with that one. So the kingdom of heaven, as Jesus said, I think he was quite right on this. I would endorse what Jesus says. The kingdom of heaven is within you, or could also be translated among you. Now, just to round off, bit of lateral thinking. People like Rupert Sheldrake and others, Bernardo Kastrup on the subject of consciousness, a very important aspect is that we need to understand that everything in this cosmos, in this created order, as far as we know, is born in relations. Ian McGilchrist is very strong on this as well in his double volume heavyweight, The Matter with Things, that you can't understand things in their separation like the reductionists or the physicalists do. you need to get together, and it's a combination. It's process that we're talking about. There's no real stuff. I know I can tap this tree with my foot, and we say that it's solid, but it turns out it's just excitations of a wave of what we call particles. But if I was small enough, I could just walk straight through that tree. I'm not going to try it now. So the kingdom of heaven is within and among you. Oh, Marshall, I hope I've not done you an injustice, my friend. Bye for now. I've just thought of what is for me a helpful analogy about this, following on from this idea of you must be born again. And Nicodemus says, well, how can I enter my mother's womb again? And Jesus doesn't slap him down. He's not suggesting that it's a physical rebirth. He's suggesting it's some sort of spiritual rebirth. Well, honestly, to you and me, what does born again mean? Well, a helpful analogy might be to see with new eyes. The writer of that highly regarded novel In Search of Lost Time, I won't give you the French title, by Marcel Proust. I think one of the quotes from that book is, to enter new lands, you don't need to travel, you just need to see with new eyes. And I think that's what being born again, metanoia, beyond the mind. It means to go beyond the material mind, or even the human condition of the mind, of human intelligence, shall we say, and to inhabit the beyond, to see the ordinary everyday with new eyes. There we go. I think that'll do.